So we're continuing the big reveal about Amai Mask being a monster. This happened at the end of the previous chapter, and now we're getting more into his backstory. And we're seeing that once he like transformed into, you know, the handsome Amai Mask that we've come to know, he kind of just went with it. I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, if this like happened to you, not in like this world, but like, you know, if you were in the One Punch Man world, you would definitely probably go with it too. Because at this point, you don't really know what the side effects are or if there are even any. So over time, given this, he eventually became, you know, #1 in popularity and, you know, the big hero that he eventually is known to be. But it's also shown that, like, before this happened, he was, like, doing good for society in his own way. I mean, whether he was defending citizens or, like, straight up just picking up litter. Now, this is pretty funny because, like, in Japan, there is no litter, but, you know, this is technically, like, city A or whatever where he comes from, but I'm just saying. Amai Mask is a good person, like at his core. Like he wanted to help. That's essentially all he wanted to do. Even as, you know, a hideous person that he was. I mean, he was so ugly that they don't even draw him. It's just his face silhouetted. But he did want attention. Like that's his character flaw at first, I guess. Because he says nobody would pay attention to him. And that's what led to his monsterification, of course. Because, you know, we've seen that before. That's kind of what excels that explosion of negative emotions that causes a cellular reaction and makes you a monster. Or as Dr. Gina says, you know, him being ugly, wanting attention, wanting admiration and all that stuff, it made him become what he wanted. Which is interesting because, you know, we talked about this before. The same thing happened with Fear Ugly. Well, not exactly the same, but extremely similar. Except with Fear Ugly, he just became more ugly and more powerful. But with Amai Mask, he became handsome and powerful. But now we're getting into the side effects. Because he says that recently he started to actually feel the monsterization process affecting his mind too. So this is what I was talking about in my previous review, how there's kind of like a time limit or a ticking clock to what's going on with Amai Mask. Yes, he does have this, you know, idol hero form that he can transform into while retaining all of his monster strength and regeneration. However, eventually his mind will like degrade into full monsterization, which I guess is just full psychopathy. You know, as we've seen before with the other monsters, there's, you know, little to no empathy in them at all. It varies with some of them, like Koketsu. You know, I'm not saying he was an altruistic individual, but he definitely wasn't as like just crazy full-blown psychopath as like the other monsters that we saw during his time. But first, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, Raycon, because they just released the latest version of their Everyday Earbuds Classic, which now feature active noise cancellation, the one thing that they were missing. Also, they have clickable buttons again, which is nice. Pair that with 8 hours of playtime, 32-hour battery, a bunch of clickable functions which are easy to use, optimized gel tips for a comfortable fit, and the audio quality definitely rivals the big audio brands you know and love, and it's at half the price. You can also get these really cool cases that keep your Raycons safe and secure. I've been using my Raycons for years now. I'm always using them for chores, working out, or just listening to podcasts or music. So guys, you can get your very own Raycons by going to buyraycon.com/Zhoniin to get 20% off the fan favorite Everyday Earbuds Classic. Check the link in the description. And again, this is sponsored by Raycon. Thanks, guys. Like, he genuinely was giving Bakuzan a chance. Like, the other crazy monsters would have just, like, ate Bakuzan's head. You know what I'm saying? So, I guess it really ultimately comes down to how powerful and how strong you are as a person inherently, I suppose. Determines what type of monster you're going to become and how the phenomenon will individually affect you depending on how powerful you are. And in Amai Mask's case, he had, you know, such strong resolve and will to like protect and serve the community that it was able to fight off his vices of, you know, wanting attention and wanting to be handsome. But it can only go so long, because he even says himself that if he's faced with a situation where he can only save one side, he'll choose to sacrifice the side with fewer casualties without hesitation. I'm pretty sure this is like referencing that test where you see like train tracks and then there's like one track diverting and then there's people on both of the tracks. One track has like 100 people or something and one track has 3. And there's like a train coming. And it's like, what do? Do you save the 100 people or do you save the 3 people? And Amai Mask's like, yeah, he doesn't even have to think. He's going to save the 100 people and not even care that the 3 people died. And that's only the beginning of it. Like, it eventually will get to the point of where he'll just let everyone die, I suppose. So that's why he's been trying to recruit Saitama to become his Homelander, essentially. Because he can't do it himself. He's eventually going to just become a full-blown monster and lose any kind of heroism that he had. So he wants to pass on this idea to Saitama. And as he's explaining all of this to Saitama, he's more so going into the fact of it being like a selfish endeavor rather than it being about helping people. He's like, you know, don't you care about your stupid name? You know, Cape Baldy. Keep that in mind because that's going to come back later on. No spoilers. But in Amai Mask, he just starts going crazy. He's like, you know, you just got to pay more attention to your appearance. You can become more popular than I am. You'll have tons of fan mail and there'll be lines at your events for signings and there'll be products and sponsors. And he's like freaking out here because he, you know, the monster side is taking over. Like, this is why he became a monster. This is what he ultimately has always, you know, selfishly wanted. And he's like passing it on to Saitama, and Saitama's like, you know, sounds like a puppet, which it is, because that's what Amai Mask wants. He wants to vicariously live through Saitama here. And Saitama points that out because he's like, would the ideal hero care about others' opinions? Isn't this more about rather than how you are seen? We're all human after all. And that's another thing that I wanted to point out. I didn't really talk about this in the previous review because I guess I talked about it in my original webcomic review 5 years ago, but Saitama doesn't care that Amai Mask is a monster because he knows that he's a good person. I mean, yeah, he knows that he's done bad things, that he's conflicted and everything, but he knows that he's trying to do the right thing, and that's why he's saying we're all human after all. Like, Amai Mask is still a human, like he still clearly has his humanity, but he's also a monster at the same time. And Saitama's just trying to pry back at that humanity, I suppose, in his own subtle, nonchalant way. And as I say that, he's trying to like ghost Amai Mask here. He's like, oh crap, it's almost evening. I said I would hang out with King, gotta go. And then he just bounces out of there. And as he's like going away, Amai Mask is thinking to himself, and he's like, this is a crucial moment that will determine whether the Hero Association that I built can stand firm. This is really interesting, especially if you've been following the webcomic currently. I won't spoil it, but there's other S-Class heroes who share this sentiment. Not just one, but there's like multiple that you could say feel this way. And I think that's a really interesting dynamic that one is building up here. It's like multiple S-Class heroes thinking that they are building and controlling and nurturing and establishing the Hero Association, like as an individual. Like they all think that they're doing their own thing and that like they're the pillars of this whole operation. And I'm wondering where that's going to all lead. But suddenly and conveniently out of nowhere, this clown monster shows up and he starts attacking people at this amusement park that they're at. And he's like, everybody's watching. It feels so good. And clearly this is supposed to parallel Amai Mask. It's just a wild coincidence. There happened to be a monster here that has like the same type of vice that Amai Mask does. It wants attention. I mean, obviously this guy is like completely crazy and didn't have the willpower or strength that Amai Mask did, so he's just full-blown psychopath here. But I guess we're just seeing what I was talking about earlier, the difference in people. You know, 2 examples of people wanting attention, one becoming this crazy clown monster and one becoming freaking Amai Mask. But before he can really hurt anyone, Amai Mask steps in and just one-shots him. And that's where the chapter ends. So you're thinking like, well, that was easy. What a interesting way to end the chapter. And I agree, but obviously it's not that simple. I mean, it would just be weird if this is just how that wraps up. Like, imagine just cutting away from this and just going to, like, another storyline. It's like, oh, that was weird. I guess, is that symbology? Does that mean that Amai Mask has defeated his personal demons and that he's ready to move on? Has he had his character arc? No, that's not what this means. Although you could construe it that way if you didn't know what was going to happen, I guess. But no, we're not nearly at that point in the story yet. Clearly, there's more to this monster than meets the eye. There almost always is, especially at this point in the story. And remember, Saitama just left, so he's not here to clean up any spilled milk. So let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. What do you think's going to happen? What do you think's going on with the Amai Mask? And let me know. And if you liked it, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.